Hi, I'm Mike. Welcome back to We Die Like Men. Yeah, okay, microphone is on. Sometimes I forget. Wanted to kind of come on and do a little video on, like, growing up in my time era. So I was born 1976. I vaguely remember a little bit of 1979, the very end of 1979, but 80s, 90s, that stuff. Obviously, makes me a Gen X, but it puts me in that weird spot where I I was at the end of that generation. The generation, if you're not familiar, is 1966 to 1980. I firmly feel as though that does make me a Gen X. But I grew up and I watched the world change a lot. Went from, most of us not having cable TV and video games really weren't a thing. And then the Atari came along. And then pretty soon there was, you know, uh, Nintendos and growing up, the internet started becoming more of a thing, and computers, obviously, before that. I touched my first computer in third grade, and we had one on a cart, and they'd have it out in the hallway, and they'd come get two or three of us out of a classroom. We'd go out and play on this little computer, and they show us some cool little features that it could do, and you spent 15 minutes doing it, and that was it. To fast forward to like fourth, fifth grade, we had in my classroom, we had a little area where there was like three computers, and we could play some games, some really rudimentary learning games. Um, to now, social media, the internet is everyone's life. It seems like, which I try not to spend too damn much time on social media. I don't really do Facebook and X and Instagram and any of that stuff. I have access to them. I have an account on all of them, primarily to keep up with some of the YouTubers I'm subscribed to. They'll put out updates on there for primarily on X. Instagram, same thing. They'll post some pictures of the upcoming videos and stuff. Facebook, I use keep track of a few friends, and that's really it. And even then, I'm just not on it. I had it primarily for a game that I used to play that they wanted you to have an account. Um, it was just that's how we did it. That's what I did with that. But as a kid, I didn't have any of that. It was so great to get up on a Saturday morning or school vacation, summer vacation, get up, get dressed, have something to eat real quick, and bye, mom, I'll see you later, and gone at, God, 8, 9 years old, even younger than that. But by the time I hit, 10, 11, I was gone all the time. I wasn't at home. Even somebody like me that really kind of likes my alone time a lot, I spend a lot of time where it's just me and the dog. Kids, well, daughter's at school, son's either getting ready for work or has gone to work, wife's at work, and it's just me. And I love that. I really enjoy that private, personal time. But as a kid, man, we were out building tree forts, and we were riding our bikes all over the place, and we were having games with kids in the neighborhood. Whether it was a pickup kickball game or baseball or something like that, or we would just tag, hide and seek, you name it. We'd invent some new challenge or whatever. Fishing. I love to fish. Fortunately, I live here in southern Maine. There was always somewhere to go fish. Whether we caught anything or not, didn't care. It was a great time. My buddies and I could kind of sit down and tell stories, and a lot of them were just that stories. We swore up and down we had done something we hadn't, but we were kids and we thought it made us cool. Um, but it was great. I see these kids now. My kids are 16 and 19, and most of their time is like this. And we were not parents that encouraged that. They'll go out and do stuff. I mean, my son and his girlfriend just spent all day with a buddy of theirs out, out about all day. Matter of fact, they're out tonight. They're out doing stuff. Um, my daughter, she's a lot like me. She likes that kind of private, personal time, and but she's always learning something new. She's watching videos on. She's big into science and history and engineering, so she's learning that. She's doing you know online games that teach her math or expanding her vocabulary and stuff like that. She's an honor roll student. She does all that stuff. So, but I think we were necessity. We were forced to do more of that because we didn't have this, you know. But I'm glad we didn't. The joke is, we were the generation where um, none of the stupid shit we did was recorded and put out for the world to see. There's some home videos out there probably, but not so much for me because I don't remember really anybody having one. The old camcorders and stuff. Not that I could remember, anyways. But it was great. The TV shows, the movies, the toys, all of that stuff was helped kind of form our generation. But I think the biggest thing was that camaraderie with the guys, friends in general. We formed tight bonds with each other. We learned to work as a team. We wanted to build a big fort. Man, it took all of us to do it, and somebody had to be in charge. And maybe today it was you, and then the next time you do it, it was your buddy because he had this idea and it worked or it didn't work, but you tried it. There was always kind of the leader of the group, but it wasn't a bossy leader, not for us, anyways. Um, Somebody knew a great spot to go fishing or a place to ride our bikes or whatever. A little combination of Stand By Me and the Goonies. That was kind of life growing up for me. It was wild adventures and just being outside. Um, Maybe that's why I'm the way I am now. I love to hunt. I love to fish. I love being out in the woods. I just love being away from it all. I love it when I get up on the logging roads here in Maine and I look down and my cell phone has no service. It's like perfect. I'm in the right place. I just enjoy those kinds of experiences. My childhood shaped a lot of that. I have my best friend. His name happens to be Mike as well too. It's a very common name for our generation. We met when I was 8 and he was 9, and I'll be 50 and he'll be 51 coming right up. Well, end of summer. Um, so what's that? 42 years. Even when I moved away and we didn't like physically see each other, really even talk much for like 5 years. As soon as I moved back to this area and he found out and he actually saw me drive by and followed me, within 15 minutes, it was like I had just seen him last week. All caught up on all the shit going on. Everything was great. We were right back at it. And even now, I don't see him a lot. He's kind of a workaholic in a good way to a point. I wish he could take a little more time for himself and enjoy life, but it's just the way he is. He doesn't have any kids. His girlfriend's got some, but they're a bit older. Um, and it's just, but I could pick up this phone right now and call him up and be like, hey, I need something. He'd be like, all right, where are you? What do you need? Could be 3 in the morning. Hey, I need a ride. Can you come get me? Yep, where are you? Now, when he gets there, and if I've done something stupid, then he's going to be like, you're a dumbass, and here's why. But it's never going to be like, man, you got anybody else you can call? It's like, no, where are you? What do you need? Do you need bail money? Do you need, what are we up to? Am I bailing you out? Am I storming the castle and breaking you out? What is it? You're abducted by aliens? What do you need? But that's the kind of friendships you form when you go and do the kind of things that we did, I think, personally. There's that bond. There's, hey, more than once, one of us got hurt out doing something and the other one had to help him out. Or that having a challenge and having to figure out how to work together to solve it. We became so close. I mean, he's in my phone as brother. We are like brothers to each other. He's got a younger brother. I don't have any brothers. I have three older sisters, but what it was and still is that tight knit bond that I think growing up, when we did and how we did, just it's unbreakable. I was there for him when his dad died. He was there for me when my dad died. Um, our fathers were about the same age. Um, we just no matter what it is, he was the best man at our wedding. Um, and I had other friends like that, but they've scattered now. One of my best friends in high school, Colorado. My wife, her best friend, is now in Colorado. It's kind of weird that they both live out in generally the same area, I guess. Um, and some of the others, they're just all over the place. But it doesn't matter when you have a bond like some of us have. It kind of doesn't matter that you don't see each other all the time and we're not right there. We are still each other's best friends. We still will drop everything to help you. We'll give you the shirt off our back, a couch to sleep on. What do you need? We're there for you. We're going to give you shit. So many people, I can't believe you talk to your best friends that way. And it's like, you have no idea how the bond between us is that we can rag on each other and give each other crap, but in a loving way. If you've been in the military, you know what I mean. The way you talk to each other is terrible. The way we talk about other branches is terrible. Let somebody else outside that group do it, and we're all right there. Back each other up. It's the same with us. Um, he is and always will be my best friend. Outside of my wife, I guess. She is kind of my best friend, really, in that sense. But other than somebody I'm married to, he is my best friend. I've known him longer than her, and I am always there for him, as well. So I look back now and I think so much about how much I miss that time period. It was really sad, but it was so true when I heard this statement or read this statement that said, we are all homesick for a time and a place that doesn't exist anymore. It was like, yeah, the 1980s, early 90s and stuff doesn't exist. I don't know if it ever will. I don't know if we'll ever see civilization kind of go back through those times. Were they perfect? No. There was problems then too, just like there is now. There was conflict around the world. There was conflict within countries. There were drug problems. There was issues. There were things that weren't great. But because we didn't have social media, in my opinion on it anyways, it wasn't in our face 24/7. Didn't mean we didn't care. It meant we had time to take a step back and breathe and, you know, process it. We don't have that time anymore. Because just about time you start processing, something new's popping up. To me, social media can be so negative, terribly negative, and I don't want that here. I don't really want to get into like politics and things like that here because they can be so divisive. I have my beliefs, you probably have yours. We can put them aside and just chill, relax, and have fun. I look back when life was so simple. Now, when you're a kid, it's simpler a lot of times, anyways, because there's no bills you have to pay. You're not worried about this and that. And, you know, oh, geez, I gotta, fill a gas tank. Do I got enough money for that? Oh, the kids need new shoes. That's gonna be, all of that stuff. It was, hey, I'm living my life. I gotta keep my room clean. I gotta do the little chores around the house that I've been given, trash, clean up the lawn, whatever it was, do the dishes, whatever your chores were. And then my time was mine. And I feel bad for a lot of these kids these days that while a lot of parents won't give chores out to their kids, which I think is wrong, but you raise your kids, um, everything's in their face 24/7. I listen to them when they're at school and everybody's bitching about politics and social issues. It's like, my God, they were in middle school, it was being shoved down their throat. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. They're there to learn, and let's let them be kids. There's plenty of time to worry about that crap later. And between people that worked at the school and the other students, they're getting bombarded by it. And social media. I wish we had waited longer before we let our kids do any of that. We really were very cautious about what they were watching. We had YouTube Kids set up for them. They were not allowed, like, any of the messaging apps or anything like that. Our kids got phones when it became like middle school and they were playing sports or after school activities where they would need to be able to call, hey, practice just ended. Can you come get me now? Yep, I'll be there. Or, they were going to away games that we couldn't make it to. Hey, we arrived here. Hey, we're leaving. We'll be back at the school in about an hour. Come, be there to pick us up. Great. And that was it. And we kept it very simple with them. But yet it still was probably more than they should have. I don't know what our childhood growing up would have been like if we had had this. A simple innocuous little box that, while it can hold great information and be a great tool, it holds great responsibility, and it holds a lot of crap. And I don't think it helps a lot of people. And that's the way we use it. I know it is. It's an inanimate object. It's up to us as to how we use it. It goes for a lot of things in life. But when I look back and I look at the simple things, toys for us were very simple in a lot of ways. We were getting, in my generation, we were starting to get more into the electronic type toys or battery operated stuff more, or, I think the Transformers and the G.I. Joe for us guys. And I was big into like Voltron for a while. If any of you remember that, I had all of them that you put them all together and made the big robot. I was big into building models, so my dad and I would always get models for Christmas, and New Year's Eve, we would go to the movie store, or our local grocery store had a big video rental section too, and God, we'd rent like 5 or 6 movies, and we'd watch them Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Always cook a bunch of food up. And a lot of times it was my mother, my father. I said, I have 3 older sisters. One that's like 3 years older than me, and me. The other 2 are 8 and 10 years older than me. So by the time I was 7, 8 years old, they were 17, 18, up into those ranges. They were kind of off doing their own things with their friends. Or had moved out when they turned 18. They went and did their own stuff. We'd sit there and build models or whatever, play board games with everybody. And I think it brought us all together closer, doing that stuff. Now, that sister of mine that's only 3 years older than me, I'm not as close with her as I kind of am with the other 2. I think part of that is we were close enough in age that there's always going to be that tension. The other 2 are so much older that there wasn't that growing up, because I don't remember them at home as much. Trust me, they weren't going to be home before they had to be, and my bedtime and their curfew were about the same time. I think back to like birthdays and Christmases. It was always more about the friends and family than it was the gifts for me. Obviously, I wanted gifts. Obviously, I got gifts. They weren't big, elaborate stuff. My family was not poor. We were not wealthy. We were kind of that middle to lower end of middle class. We could do certain things that others couldn't, but we didn't do things that others did too. Growing up, I never had designer clothes or name brand sneakers. We didn't buy the name brand cereals and stuff like that. But we took a trip every year, 2 weeks, we drove to Florida. We went to Disney for a day or two, and we stayed with my grandparents, and we had a camper, and we'd go to campgrounds, and we'd explore and drive home. So that was kind of our big thing. We skimp on some things, we get to do other things. So many kids these days, they want it all. And I get it. We probably wanted it all too, but I think we realized that we couldn't have it all. My kids, I was always fortunate that neither one of my kids were really caught up in the brand name. Oh, it's got to be this type of sneaker or that type of pants. Or, I mean, my son, I kind of wish he had been a little bit more. I mean, he'd throw on a ratty pair of sneakers, a pair of sweatpants, a t-shirt, and head to school like, yeah, whatever, I've got clothes on. He's not one that's caught up in that. Now, when it comes to his truck, but he pays for that stuff. So I'm like, hey, it's your money, kid. Do what you want. Pay your rent to us, and I don't care what you do. Um, I think that looking at it now, as almost 50-year-old adult that has my own kids, seeing what our childhood was like, I thank my parents for letting us be more free and free roaming. I wish I could have more with my kids. The world's a different place, unfortunately, and it's not so much I was worried about somebody bothering them or hurting them as much as if you sneeze wrong now, somebody's calling the cops on you, especially if you're a kid. Some old biddy is out there, oh, there's kids walking on the sidewalk, and the cops are getting tired of it, so they just show up and tell the kids to go the hell home because they're tired of getting the phone call from the old lady instead of going to the old lady telling her to shut the hell up, you know. Um, have friends that are in law enforcement, or at least were. Most of them have retired now, and they're like, it sucks because you can't even do anything as a kid these days without somebody getting upset. Whatever the case may be. Because I lived in areas where we were more out of town a lot more than we are now. We don't live right in town, but we're close enough. Closer than I want to be. Um, I remember getting my first like really nice bike. It was a BMX. Really nice bike. And I was probably 9. I mean, I had bikes, but this was brand new. This was, I got it in the spring, and man, that thing was, because all my buddies had nice bikes. There was one thing that, even the kids that didn't have a lot, they had a nice bike. Um, and man, you felt like a king. Especially mine was shinier than theirs. It was brand new. It was, I'd get home, and instead of throwing it on the front lawn like I did my old ones, man, that thing went in the shed, got put away, made sure that the shed was locked so nothing happened. Not that anyone was probably going to steal it, but I was scared something would happen to my new shiny bike. Um, it was so much freer feeling. Uh, my kids, they made a weird statement, and it was sad to a point, but it wasn't. It was shocking, and it was kind of sad. We were watching something on YouTube. The wife and I, every once in a while, will put it on, some of the old nostalgic. There's channels that dedicate, like, last day of school 1995 for seniors, or she graduated in 2000. And we'll just put it on and watch. And it's like, wow, just looking back, because even though they're not my school, I didn't go to school with any of these kids. They look like my friends did, and my son and his girlfriend and my daughter were all sitting there and kind of quiet about it. They were, at first they were kind of joking and making fun of it and stuff like that, because it's all on VHS, camcorder. So the picture quality, now some of them aren't bad. I think they've been run through obviously a digital enhancer, but some of them are a little, and of course they're used to, 4K, Ultra HD cameras on their iPhones or whatever. So they're making a little fun of that, but then they kind of got quiet. And it was a shot from like a balcony. It was a huge high school somewhere. And it's just showing all the kids up and down the stairs and through the halls. And I can't remember which one it was. I think it was my daughter that says, wow, everyone just looks so put together. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, they're all dressed nice. Kids these days, they're like, no, I mean, they go to school, they literally got, like I said, my son, sweatpants. Now, some of them go to school in their pajama pants, slippers, and a sweatshirt on. And that's, I'm here, which we didn't want to be there either. We were kind of like, I'm here. Let's get this done. And they're like, nobody looks like that anymore in school. Everyone looks so nice. And then one of the other ones is like, everyone's happy. So my wife and I are like, because the kids were going down the hallway and they're joking and laughing, and, throwing balled up pieces of paper at each other and just teasing each other, having fun. You come up and shoulder check your buddy a bit or whatever, and everyone's laughing and high fiving each other. It was school, but we had a little bit of fun. Of course, this is towards the end of school, so everybody's happy. But we've watched some that were like first day of school for class of 1995 or 2000 or whatever. And I'm like, that like nobody makes eye contact in the hallway. They're on their phone. You can see them out of the corner. Like, I don't notice me. I don't want to talk to anybody. In class, they sit there like this. Don't look at me. I don't want to be here. Don't talk to me. I don't want to know anyone's around me. It's so sad that that's what we've got to. My state of Maine is banning cell phones in public schools. I believe it starts this coming beginning of the 2026-2027 school year. And I don't think they need them during the day. I don't. I don't have a problem with it if, between classes, if they got time, they run up to their locker and check something or send a text real quick back home or whatever, that's fine. If I, as a parent, have to get a hold of my child, I will call the school and have them paged, to a phone so that I can talk to them. Rarely do I have to do that. Now that it's just my daughter there, I really don't have to very much. If she has to get a hold of me for whatever, she can go to the office and call me. Just like we had to with our parents. But it was just like one of those kind of stark realities of like how much it's changed. And I feel bad for these kids because while it was school and I didn't want to be there, I was there with people that I truly cared about and enjoyed being around. Now, they literally will sit in a circle around each other, texting each other instead of talking like this. They can talk to a camera sometimes, but they can't talk to a person. I can have this same conversation. If you guys were all sitting right here, we could have this same conversation as far as I'm concerned because I prefer that over this. I do this because it's something fun, it is enjoyable, and I just want to build that community up of, like I've said before, the virtual man cave. I would love nothing more than be able to do, live streams and have people in there and chat. My wife and I do it on her channel, Friday night live stream for football stuff. And it's great. It's one of the most, we look forward to it so much on Fridays because we just get to interact with people that, while we don't know them personally, we've got to know them virtually at least. But friends and just have fun. And they just don't do that as much anymore. One thing they noticed, it was the cafeteria, the food. And they're like, wow, that food looks a lot better than what we get. And I'm like, that food looks better than what we got. One of the schools we looked at was a huge high school, I believe in Western Texas, I think it was. And it was, I say huge for us. It was like 7,500 or 8,000 students. Now that's now when I Googled it. What it was back in 95 or 2000, I don't know what it would have been. But I would say it had to be around that then. It was big. I went to a school where kindergarten through 12th grade was one building. It was 248 of us. My graduating class was 21, the biggest class in the history of the school up to that point. Amy's high school had 1,000 kids at it, or probably between 800 and 1,000, something like that. It's the same high school that our son graduated from, our daughter goes to. But, we just, I think we take some of it for granted how good we had it, which is common. At the time, you don't realize. But it was so great. It was so much fun. I miss it. I want it back. If you watched my rant, well, not rant, but video on, it says it wasn't a car. It's not just a car. It's freedom, however I worded it. Talking about your first car. It's kind of that same nostalgia with me for back in school, or at least that, not even so much being in school, but just that time period. I knew when my show, a show that I wanted to watch was coming on. And as we had one TV in the house, sometimes we had two. Like my parents would have one in their room sometimes if they wanted to watch the news later in the evening, and us kids wanted to watch something else, they'd go in their room to watch the news or whatever, 60 Minutes or whatever they would watch, and we could watch something out there. I didn't have a TV in my bedroom until I'm trying to think, until I moved out, until after I graduated, before I had a TV in my bedroom. Um, just the way that it, you know, way that we were. But I, 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 I miss that time era. I miss that when you wanted to find your friends, it was where's all the bicycles parked. You didn't call anybody because there was no way to call. I mean, you call their house, but they weren't going to be there, and you rode around the neighborhood. Oh, there's everybody. Or if they weren't there, you're like, oh, I bet you they're up on such and such a trail. So you'd go up there. Oh, hey, I wonder where you were. Stop by your house. You weren't there. Like, oh, I had to go out, with my parents or something. But I just think we need to get back to a little bit less dependent on the electronic side of it and more dependent on social and personal interactions. I said I don't know if that real feeling of the 80s and 90s will ever be back. Probably not. That's kind of innocence lost. But man, I think we can bring some of it back. And I know I've got some people that'll be watching this that are way younger, and that's great. I want that younger generation of guys in here. Those late teens on up through, um, that are trying to figure out life too. And you know what? Us old guys are still trying to friggin' figure it out. But I think we can all teach each other some, and get back to what we had. And I think it'll benefit some of the younger guys too. Be more resilient on your and more dependent on yourself. Uh, Become more, what's the word I'm looking for? Independent, more self-reliant, more confident, more capable of things. I remember breaking down in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone. We didn't have them then when I was first driving. I mean, they existed, but nobody had one. And where I lived, I don't think you could have got reception if you tried. Um, and it just figuring it out. Basic, I think probably had a pair of pliers, a hammer, and a couple of screwdrivers in my truck. And well, I figured it out and limped the damn thing home. So, you know, it was that stuff. It was, hey, I'm stuck. How do I get myself out of this? Or I'm lost. How do I figure out how not to be? I need to build something. How do I do that? And we just screwed around and figured it out. But we started at a young age. I still have a few of my things from when I was a little kid. I was a big Star Wars nerd. Um, Believe it or not, the episodes 4, 5, and 6. I saw the first movie I saw in movie theaters was Return of the Jedi, 1984. So I was 8, and I got hooked. I had every toy. Now my parents didn't necessarily buy all of them for me. My dad had a buddy of his in the fire department he had 3 boys, and that was their thing. They had everything, like everything. Well, they were much older than I was. So when they grew up and moved away, he started giving me all that stuff. I mean, I had full sets of curtains, sheets, pillowcases, and comforter for every one of the 3 movies. I had the big Millennium Falcon, the AT-AT. I mean, I had it all, and it was all the first run, production run. The Kenner toys. I wish I had them now because they'd be worth a lot more money. But over the years, I was like, I gave them to some people. I sold some stuff off. I traded some stuff. But that was just the way that, oh no, she's out of the shower. Um, but, what's that?
Sorry.
No reason to be sorry. The wife just got out of the shower. Our bathroom is right there, literally in our bedroom. Um, those of you who join us for her channel will know that. But those of you who don't, welcome to the dark recess of corners of my bedroom. As I sure as hell don't have room to set up a studio anywhere else. If I could, it would be in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'd have to have internet, I suppose. But what is she doing? On her phone. How poetic.
I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, I'm just sitting here ranting about how modern technology isn't the best and how much I miss the old ways. I can't see her behind my monitor. Even if she stands up, I really can't see her behind my monitor. There she is. But
The modern technology does suck.
yes, it doesn't so much that modern technology sucks. I think it's that we miss our simpler life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing is I really reminisce about the old days, and maybe I know, oh, you're a dinosaur, you're getting fucking old. Okay. All right, I am. But while there's certain things that are better today and more convenient, I mean, hey, let's face it, when I need to know something, I can pick up my phone. What time does this place open? How do I get to this location that I've never been to? But you know what the worst frickin' thing that this thing has done to me? I can't remember a fucking phone number to save my soul. When I used to know every one of my friends and family members' phone numbers by heart.
Mm-hmm.
I know her phone number. I don't even know my kid's phone number without that thing. It's just fried my brain on that. But
Pretty much, yeah.
now what are you doing?
I drink.
Well, she's drinking already. It'll be Pepsi, but. So to those of us that are a bit older and remember our youth and the toys and the movies, I think movies was one of the big things for me. I've always loved certain types of movies. I love old movies. When I say old, I'm talking like 1940s and 50s. Huge history buff. I love the old World War II movies. Some of them are not necessarily the most accurate, but at least the timelines typically are, and it's a pretty good gist of things. With that, always, sometimes there's bias one way or the other. That was the time period. It's not right a lot of times, but, there is. But like the 80's movies, Goonies is our generation's movies. I know they're talking about making a part two. If they screw that up, so help me God, every Gen Xer is coming for them. And we're going to, come after them with pitchforks and torches and whatever else because don't screw up that movie. They're making Spaceballs Part 2. That's awesome. I trust Mel Brooks and them to not screw that up. Even though he's like 99 or whatever, 94, something like that. He said in an interview I watched that he told the production crew they got to film all of his scenes first because he doesn't know if he'll be around for the whole movie and he doesn't want anything cut out. So, or have to, be changed because he's not there to do that scene. Well, I trust them to get it right. They want to do, somebody said they want to do a remake or a part two of Princess Bride. Don't screw that up. That's a great movie. We had some awesome movies. If you were into the horror genre, which I was a little bit, but not a ton, the early Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and the early like Chainsaw Massacre movies, those ones. Now they're on, part 436.8 or whatever. The early original, the first 2, 3 maybe were fine. After that, they just got weird. The original Jaws, 1975, I believe it is. I still won't swim in the frickin' ocean. Nope, won't do it. I'll go take my boat out in the ocean or whatever, but I am not swimming in the ocean. And even here in Maine, we had a lady tragically and sadly killed by a great white shark attack a few years ago. Kind of on one of the little bit of the inlet harbors out for a swim in waters that, while we've known there's been great white sharks in the Maine waters, I know fishermen, family members who have spent time out there. I had an uncle who was a colonel for the Maine coastal wardens. They're game wardens, but they handle the ocean side of stuff. So the commercial fishing, private fishing, just recreational sport fishing, all that. He's passed away now too, but he started doing that in the 60s, and he's like, we saw great white sharks in the 60s out there. Typically out a bit further, they weren't coming in as close. Um, but that was, you know, was what it was. Um, Hold on just 1 minute. I'm going to pause this. I got to check something. Okay, so sorry about that. I had to pause the video earlier. I was actually recording that Saturday. It's now Monday morning. Just got busy with things. You know how life goes. So we were talking about kind of how I miss the 80s and 90s and how life was just different. I think it was better in a lot of ways, but not every way. Social media has its goods and bad. I kind of rewatched through some of the video just to kind of pick back up on my thought process and try not to like reduplicate things. But um, I don't want it to sound like, every single thing back then was better, and that today absolutely sucks or anything, because it's not what it is. It, I think more or less it was more a time when there was less to worry about, or at least we worried less about things. There may have been even more to worry about. I mean, for those of us then, there was the Cold War and stuff like that. You're always worried we're going to get nuked. Well, you still worry about that some today. So, but I think we've gotten used to just kind of dealing with it. Maybe that's what it is. I'm nostalgic for not just my youth, but I think the experiences I wish my kids and everyone's kids could have from back then. We were more of a personal society, I think. We spent more time interacting face to face and hanging out in groups and talking and dreaming about stuff and just, being kids, but also just being with each other in so many remarkable and fun ways. People still do that some now, but I find it's way less often for a lot of people. And it's still just very different the way that people do it. And it doesn't mean it's worse in every way. Now, my son and them just last night had a fire out here in the yard in the fire pit, hanging out with the buddies. They do that, you know, once a week or so, which is great. I think it's awesome. I love the fact that they all get together and do it. Him and his girlfriend and some of her friends and some of his friends, and they just all get together, which is awesome. That's an important, I think it's an important part of life. It's just, but I think one of the, some things that we all from that time period really miss is the fun and excitement of things was, I think, different. It's too much instant gratification right now. We had to wait a little longer sometimes for, you know, the radio station to play our favorite song. Now we just, they release the album, you go on to whatever, Spotify or YouTube Music or whatever you use, and click and download a song. I remember going to, the store and hoping that they had a copy of whatever cassette I wanted was in stock. My daughter, who's 16, is getting into records, old vinyl. Bought her a record player and went to one of our local big record companies stores here. They got locations all over Maine called Bull Moose, and just picking through the old records. I mean, some of them were like 97 cents. She's happy. She loves them. She wants to listen to it on vinyl, which I think is cool because the sound is definitely different. There's definitely a different sound to things. There's definitely a different kind of vibe to it. Um, oh, my ear's ringing. Somebody's talking about me. Probably the wife. Probably saying bad things. I don't know. Probably not. But so yeah, I think that was just kind of my point to it. I kind of want to wrap that video up. It's longer than I was kind of expecting, but sometimes I get going on a subject and I don't know when to stop. I'm going to revisit some of this stuff in more detail as time goes on. I don't want it to be every video about the same topic. I want that mix, that kind of eclectic mix of things. So we will revisit the past and nostalgia and the good and the bad. I mean, there was bad stuff. If you grew up in the 80s, you remember some of it. 90s. My wife, for her, she remembers the 90s a lot better. That was more her. Late 90s was her teenage years. She graduated in 2000. I graduated in 95. So we have a different take on certain things, but it's fun. It's fun to think about and look back at, and we'll do that more. So this is just a quick addition onto this, and I said we'll revisit it. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Um, Come hang out. We're gonna do more and more of this, and I will talk to you soon. I've got to probably it's what is today's date? 5/4. Oh, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Um, if you've watched the rest of the video, you know I'm a Star Wars fan. So, it's a beautiful day out. It's supposed to be. It's already almost 55 at quarter of 10 in the morning. Probably ought to mow my lawn again. I got the door partially open because the dog's on the deck and he doesn't want to come in. So he's laying in the sun. Um, Till then, behave best as you can. And just relax, man. Talk to you later. Bye.